Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namaskar and a very good afternoon to everyone. I am Dr. Radharani Nair, and on behalf of Kalahandi University, I welcome you all to the 54th edition of our Motivational Lecture series, Uttishthata. It has been said in Bhagavad Gita that we cannot control our thoughts and emotions, but we can control our mind, which decides our thoughts and emotions. Because our mind, he who controls his mind, for him his mind is the best of friends, and he who fails to do that, for him his mind becomes the worst of enemies. So today's topic is emotional stability and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So on this auspicious occasion, I take this opportunity to welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor Sanjay Kumar Satpathy, who is also the chairperson of this meeting. To this occasion, I welcome you, sir. Thank you very much for your presence. I take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed registrar, Sri Pitambar Bhoi, sir, to this meeting. Thank you, sir, for your presence. It's my honor, pleasure, and privilege to invite our guest of this occasion, Swamy Chaitanya ji. Thank you so much, sir, for your presence. It's also my pleasure to welcome Sri Suresh Chandra Pidisika, Controller Finance, Kalahandi University, to this meeting. I also welcome Dr. Pavitra Kumar Bag, who has recently joined as an Assistant Professor of Political Science at Kalahandi University. I welcome you, sir, to this meeting. I take this privilege to welcome the convener of this meeting, Major Dr. Joydev Sahu, sir, who is also the Chairperson of PG Council and the Head of the Department of English. I welcome you, sir. I also welcome Ms. Khushbu Agarwal, Assistant Professor of Botany, and Ms. Lipsa Maharana, singer, to this meeting. I welcome all the faculty members, non-teaching staff, and participants from far and wide who have joined this meeting. So now, without any further ado, let's start the meeting. May I now request Ms. Lipsa Maharana to sing the welcome song. Ms. Lipsa.
Thank you so much, ma'am. ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ମୋର ପ୍ରଣାମ ଶୁଭ ସନ୍ଧ୍ୟା ଗୋବିନ୍ଦ 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 ପଦୁ ଗଳୁଛି ମକରନ୍ଦ ସେ ମକରନ୍ଦ ପାନ କରି କେରେ ତରିଲେ ব্রজনারী শ্রী ব্রজনারী কপয়রে মন মোর নিরন্তরে মন মোর নিরন্তরে হা কৃষ্ণ বলি জীব যাও হা কৃষ্ণ বলি যাও জীব মতে উদ্ধর বাসুদেব নমই নৃসিংহ চরণ অনাদি পরম কারণ যাদিনু আদি মধ্যান্ত বিচারে ন ঘটে জগত ইন্দ্রিয়ার্থ যে জানাই সতি যে নিত্য প্রকাশ আনন্দ মনে বেদ সার ব্রহ্মাণ্ডে যে কলা যার স্বরূপ হৃদে চিন্তি বেদ পুরুষে ন জানন্তি মৃত্তিকা বেকার যে মন্ত জলরে হই কল্পিত জলে অকুল অধিকারে মৃগ তৃষ্ণারে চিহ্নে পারে রূপ রূপ স্থিতি তিনি যার গোচরে অনুমানে স্বভাবে নহে সে মন্দ ই সাংখ্য যোগী করমত আত্মপ্রকাশে সদা থায় নিরত প্রভু কবলয় সত্য পরমানন্দ হরে যাহার ভাবে বহুতরে হেমন্তে সত্যর পূজার তাপাদি মোর নমস্কার তাপাদি মোর নমস্কার তাপাদি মোর নমস্কার ধন্যবাদ সমস্তଙ୍କୁ প্রণাম
Thank you so much, Lipsa, for this beautiful bhajan. Now, may I request our esteemed registrar sir, Sri Pitambar Bhoi sir, to deliver his address. Sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Namaskar to everyone. Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Sanjay Kumar Satpathy sir, respected Chief Speaker Swamy Shyama Chaitanya, respected Registrar Sambalpur University Dr. Nurparaj Sausar, respected COF Sri Suresh Pidisika sir, respected Chairman PG Council Major Jaydev Sausar, respected Dr. Pavitra Kumar Bagh sir, respected Khushbu Agarwal madam and Radharani Naik madam, respected all faculty members, respected all dignitaries participated here, and my dear student and Miss Lipsa. On behalf of Kalahandi University, I welcome you all for this 54 Utishtata motivational talk series of our Kalahandi University. Today, we have a special guest, spiritual guru, Swami Shyama Chaitanya. He will discuss on the topic emotional stability and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Emotional stability refers to a person's ability to remain stable and balanced. But on the other hand, Bhagavad Gita tells us to do good deeds to others without having any expectation. It gives true happiness and we will understand the true meaning of life. Bhagavad Gita commences with crisis, that is emotional crisis, and ends with stability. Let me conclude in Oriya যে ଭାଗବତର ପ୍ରଥମ ଅଧ୍ୟାୟ ବିଷାଦ ଯୋଗ ବା ଇମୋସନ ରୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହୋଇକି 18 ଅଧ୍ୟାୟ ମୋକ୍ଷ ଯୋଗରେ ଶେଷ ହୋଇଛି। ମୋକ୍ଷ ଯୋଗ ଅର୍ଥାତ ମଣିଷର ମୋହ ତ୍ୟାଗ କରିବା ବା ମୋହ ନାଶ ହେଇଯିବା, ମୋକ୍ଷ ପ୍ରାପ୍ତି ହେବା। ତେଣୁ ଭାଗବତ ହେଉଛି ଆମ ମଣିଷ ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ ଆଚରଣ ବିଧି, ଯୋଉଟା କି ଭଗବାନ ଶ୍ରୀକୃଷ୍ଣ ନିଜର ସଖା ବା ଶିଷ୍ୟ ଅର୍ଜୁନକୁ ମଣିଷର ଆଚରଣ ବିଷୟରେ, ବିଧି ବିଷୟରେ ଷ୍ଟେପ ବାଇ ଷ୍ଟେପ ଅର୍ଜୁନକୁ ବୁଝାଇଥିଲେ, ଯାହାଦ୍ୱାରା କି ଅର୍ଜୁନଙ୍କର ମୋହ ତ୍ୟାଗ ହେଇଥିଲା, ନିଜର ବନ୍ଧୁ ତ୍ୟାଗ କରି ନିଜର ବନ୍ଧୁ ସଖା ସମ୍ପର୍କୀୟ ଗୁରୁଜନ ବିରୋଧରେ ଯୁଦ୍ଧ କରିଥିଲେ। ତେଣୁ ଏହି ଅବସରରେ ମୁଁ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ସ୍ୱାଗତ ଜଣାଇ ମୋର ବକ୍ତବ୍ୟ ଶେଷ କରୁଛି। ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ନମସ୍କାର, ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ମ୍ୟାଡମ।
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, may I request Dr. Pavitra Kumar Bagh to introduce the guest of today's occasion. Pavitra, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening to all of you, all spiritual beings and happy faces. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2nd, verse 56, 57, 58. It says, emotional management is when an individual can emote or withdraw his or her emotion at his or her will, and emotional stability is to stay firm in tranquility with neither of the opposites affecting him. With that note of Bhagavad Gita, we all believe that now it is high time in the post-COVID situations to understand and engage with emotional management and stability, either from a medical science perspective or from a spiritualist having academic experiences. In that case, we are having resource person to engage on such topic. With us is Swamy Shyama Chaitanya. Swamy Shyama Chaitanya is a monk pursuing his spiritual calling in Rishikesh. He was a student of Ravenshaw College from 1984 to 1986. He completed MA from Hindu College, Delhi University, and started his professional career as a lecturer at Delhi College of Arts and Commerce in the early 1990s. He switched several jobs and worked in multiple sectors including academia, media, government, NGOs, and ad agency, but he never felt truly fulfilled. After having worked with the World Bank for a decade, he called it a day and moved to Rishikesh. Beckoned by his inner calling, in order to pursue the study of Upanishads and other philosophical scriptures under the learned guardians of Acharya of Kailas Ashram, he spends his time studying, walking along the Ganges, traveling, and counseling people in distress. So, in post-COVID situation, we are having such a brilliant resource persons, and we are going to listen him. And this is all about him. Thank you, Radharani ma'am. You can now take over the session.
Thank you so much, sir. Now may I request Swamiji to deliver his talk. Swamiji.
ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः. Well, dear friends, I'm very, very pleased to be part of you. And I met Professor Satpathy, who was our senior in Ravenshaw College, a student, and is associated with the academia for a long time. He has taught in premier institutes, and now he's luckily part of you. And it's also a privilege to sort of get associated with you. The only time actually I have been to Bhawanipatna was when I had gone there on an inspection for a World Bank project. And that was a road project. We were looking at the social risks, and we traveled, and wonderful place. Even though it was a hot summer, I felt how much we have missed in the coastal areas. Very sweet, nice people. So pleasing to hear that now in Odisha we have new universities coming up in different parts of the state, especially the tribal areas in Koraput, then the Western Odisha and Kalahandi, or northern areas. So these are very good initiatives where the brilliant students of that area who are difficulty coming and finding a hostel seat and studying in the earlier established three universities now have an opportunity. And through these online conversations, the gap which was earlier there between JNU and Orissa universities, Delhi University, or say even foreign universities and Orissa universities, that's kind of melting down, because we can connect, you can talk with each other, you can watch talks on YouTube, you can even join talks in any foreign university. I think technology, even though we have been talking about a digital divide, and that technology empowers the rich, but I think technology also has a huge democratic potential. It unites people and brings us together. With that short thing, I think it's a very appropriate time. I am not sure in the series what are the talks that you have already covered, that this issue of emotional stability in a post-COVID situation is an extremely important topic to dwell on. In fact, one of my juniors, who is sort of in a consulting firm, he was telling that They sort of provide consulting services in HR, human resources. And they got this request from few companies and government, including PSUs, that could we have a 2-3 day retreat where you could talk to our staff and managers, because there has been a sudden decline in outputs and performance after the COVID situation. I mean, people are coming to work, but the the output, the performance levels have gone down, and we have a lot of studies on the kind of trauma. You have heard of what is called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, where you have intrusive thoughts. You are trying to avoid a few thoughts, but they keep coming in, because all of us have lost friends and relatives. We have, in some people, they have lost members in their immediate family. Some people have lost people they knew, with their loved and they interacted with for long, many years. It's even very painful to deal with loss of a classmate or friend. We are all coming back to normalcy, but a lot of studies have shown that this apparent external normalcy doesn't all the time help in sort of re-establishing your pre-disaster or pre-calamity level of efficiency. It's like you have had a kind of a heartbreak. It's a kind of a trauma. It's kind of a very bad experience. How do you reconnect with life? You have suffered a setback. And then even if you haven't, if you have actually survived, there's a lot of studies to show that people who survive a big natural calamity or disaster, I was associated in the post-cyclone relief efforts in Orissa and Arasama area. People, the boys, the girls who are in school, some of them have a sense of guilt that I lost my friend and I survived. You have a certain feeling of guilt. You have a feeling of sadness, what's called anger, grief. Okay, so these things do come. Why am I mentioning all this is because at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, is one of the esteemed introductory speakers mentioned, the whole of Bhagavad Gita actually starts with a statement about what is Vishada. But there's a beautiful twist to the story here. Lord Krishna, the author of the book, the Vyasadeva, he describes this state of affairs in the life of Arjuna not as something very negative. He calls it Vishada, but he adds the word yoga. It's very loaded, isn't it? All of us face setbacks, some losses somewhere. There can never be a person who hasn't suffered any loss or setback or agony or depression. It's not possible. You remember that beautiful story of Lord Buddha where the woman was sad that she lost a baby. What did Lord Buddha tell her? Please go find just a handful of mustard from a family where nobody has died. Essentially saying, we can never meet a person who hasn't suffered any grief or pain, who hasn't suffered depression or anxiety. The degree could vary. It's quite possible that all of us haven't been equally happy or sad, but all of us have suffered. All of us have had some good moments in life and some bad moments. Now, coming back to the issue of emotional stability, Bhagavan perhaps recognizes, and this Bhagavad Gita, to my mind, irrespective of religion, this is essentially a dialogue on so many things, basically about how to deal with life, how to deal with different conflictual situations, different dilemmas, different challenges, contradictions that we experience in our minds. How do we understand them? How do we deal with them? We have just half an hour. This topic cannot be resolved in half an hour. What I'll do is I'll sort of focus my attention on the depression aspect of it, because many of you are professors. I'm quite sure that you have some counseling program for students, because this is one area, the gray area where universities and faculty members need to work on. We need to have student counselors, because many times students do suffer some trauma. We think that's their academic deficiency, but actually there could be some issue because of which they are not being able to fully focus on whatever they're doing. That they never share their emotions, their feelings, because they cannot trust anyone. And it has not, if you can go and report that you have a headache, there's no issue as to why we cannot actually seek help or some sort of a some lack of you're not at the optimal level. You are not very well. You have a headache, you have some backache, you may have some sprain or something in your leg because you're playing football. Similarly, in life, through our relations, through our efforts, and you are doing examination, you are appearing different, especially your students at the master's level have so much of challenge. The parents are expecting them to get jobs and bring money and wealth and name and fame. They are struggling with a different situation, right? So we need to sort of help. And this Bhagavad Gita, let's see what Bhagavan tells, how we can actually help ourselves and help others. Now, because many of you are academicians, professors, you have that emotionally parental roles in the universities. A lot of research shows that the students who are in the universities, because of a range of factors, they actually show signs of depression. One could be like family issues, it could be cultural adjustment issues. You could have relationship issues, you could have financial issues. You do not know exactly why they are suffering, whatever. But then you have to sort of identify if somebody has a few alarm signs so that you sort of wake up and identify this person. Whether that fellow has some breathing alternations, you have heavy breathing or feels gasping for breath sometimes, you have some sort of a lack of regular heartbeats, you can have, suddenly the heartbeat is going up, you can have loss of appetite, you don't feel like eating, you have sleep disorder, and then you might start thinking that people are thinking about you, they're talking about you because you did not score very high, or there was maybe a relationship breakdown or something, or maybe a professor made a joke on you because you are not doing very well in studies, right? And sometimes you might feel that people do not understand you. That's also quite possible. It's quite possible that we face this experience of procrastination. You're pushing your thing, you're not doing it, you're just pushing it because there's something unresolved. The horse can run if it can see the road. If the horse is not very clear where it is going, it stops. Our mind is like that. So we need to help our mind perform better. Okay? And then loss of motivation. Why am I doing it? What do I get out of it? We can have this kind of thing. And then you have binge internet watching or TV watching. Some students watch TV for long hours, even some teachers. And then you may have alterations in the blood pressure. You do not know, maybe blood pressure is going down because of which some people are facing stress or depression. In case of older people, the faculty, it is quite possible somebody has high blood pressure because of too much of challenges in the work front. So all these things make the universities, which is actually, it's like a kitchen of the civilization, because here we are preparing, it's like a garden actually, it's like a nursery, it's like a kitchen, it's a nursery. Here we are preparing brave intellectuals and soldiers who will enter into society. So as teachers, we have a responsibility to help our students. At the same time, we need to help ourselves. We need to have a regime of self-care. Both the ways, it starts with understanding why do we suffer depression? Why do we have emotional instability? And how that happened in the case of, if you sort of get into the life of, and also a couple of other things like other symptoms as a teacher you need to mark is absenteeism. With the student, it's regular, or there's too much of absenteeism. Whether you have irritability, this boy is sharply responding in the hostel, something is wrong. You can have, he's playing the game of distance, he's withdrawing, he's a little sullen, he or she, whether he or she is having mood swings, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and declining interpersonal skills. Otherwise, somebody who's very happy gets offended very easily. It's quite possible there's something, brewing inside. The person isn't very happy inside. And among students, also among grown-up people, there could be also instances of substance abuse. Like, somebody starts smoking or drinking or any other kind of addiction. Why? He's trying to cope with it. He's trying to deal with the stress. He doesn't know how to deal with it. So some people take to some sort of an abuse of their own mind. It could be internet, it could be anything, because you are trying to survive in this process. What you do is you are avoiding. Remember one thing, You are essentially avoiding the problem. You don't want to face it. You are running away. Now, having said that, let's go to Bhagavad Gita to sort of make sense of how sort of it starts and how Bhagavan is dealing with it. Because we have a mandate, we're going to start it. Whichever point we reach in our discussion, if there is more space and there is a requirement, we can follow it up, we can talk again. Okay? So, how do we actually try to ensure emotional maturity? I essentially mentioned certain problems to understand how to be emotionally mature. To make sense of what is emotional maturity, the best way to start asking ourselves a few questions is about when we think somebody is not emotionally mature. I just mentioned about some grave instances where it's not about absence of emotional maturity, but it's about emotional conflict, depression. So I'm taking you to a higher level where you have a serious problem, right? Now, at the minimum level, you have lack of maturity. This lack of maturity sometimes might mature into like you have a loan. You don't repay it. What happens? We hit the point of bankruptcy, right? So we don't prepare for exams. Those of you who are students here, then what happens? We have a breakdown. When the examination comes, you want to drop, you want to run away something. Why? Because that's building up and you have not addressed it. So if you would have been like a good cricketer who keeps taking singles, don't keep standing and defending and avoiding. Make a few runs. You don't hit a six every ball. You don't do great things every day, but do a little. Keep the horse moving, keep the cart moving, keep your life moving. This basic advice, which everybody says, have incremental approach, don't sleep. Then, of course, your system is still fighting fit. And one day you need to work 16 hours. Yeah, you can. But a lot of students postpone it to the last 2 months of the examination. Not a very healthy strategy. Sometimes you might sort of escape through this, sometimes you may not. So that's one thing I just wanted to mention because we are essentially in an educational community, and this problem is kind of repetitive in the lives of many. So, who is not emotionally mature? The answer is very simple. The one who is fearful, right? These are the things. Emotionally, why he's not mature? He has fears, or maybe has having false expectations, too much of expectation from parents, from teachers, from friends. Anxiety, whether it's exam, which is relationship, खाम खा भी लोग परेशान होते हैं. Lack of patience. You have irritation. Why is it not happening? Why have to work so hard? The other one got it so easy, right? We have these thoughts and irritation. And then you have some anxiety sometimes about life, sometimes about your finances. Um, it can hit anyone, okay? Now what happened is that I was talking to one of the friends and there was another person who lost her husband in COVID. And this lady is actually doing very well. She's doing a job, but she's not earning enough. The main breadwinner in her family is her husband. Now she saw a few people whose husbands passed away, and the wives who are housewives have now to try and find some job. Right? Now this lady once called me up and she's very stressed out. Main reason is she has terrible anxiety even if her husband coughs and sneezes. She's over scared. What happens? If I lose them, I have wasted my years. I didn't look for a job. Where do I go? I have growing up children, they're teenagers. They need money. How do I manage the house? Anxiety, right? And then you have health related anxieties. You have relationship related anxieties. You can also suffer a person who has frequent breakdowns. Either sad or happy or very irritable or very flippant, sometimes answers very sharply, sometimes withdraws. We can also say that, okay, he's lacking in maturity. You would be having a few students in the class or in the family who throw a few tantrums. In a family get together, there'll be one person, मुझे नहीं खाना है, मुझे आपने बताया था, ये कैसे डाल दिया? He might just get a little extra sharp response to everything that's happening, right? And there would be a story behind it. That story no one has heard. Okay, and Bhagwan beautifully hears the story of Arjuna. And then jealousy. It's quite possible that you are fine, but suddenly there's another girl who's dressed up very well and she comes. These are reasonably good friends. But she comes into the class and dressed up, and everybody says, "Oh my God, you look so beautiful." And there's another girl who's sulking, angry. Why? Because she was getting a lot of attention. Similar in a family, there are two sisters. One sister gets a very good job, and the other is still studying, and she's being compared. She has mental problems. It can happen with men. अच्छा तुमने कुछ नहीं किया पता है वो अंकल जी का बेटा क्या किया these kind of jokes you will see that on internet on Facebook पता है वो तो अभी स्टार्टअप किया he has become a millionaire मेरे तकदीर में कहाँ ऐसा बेटा है you know you are essentially hurting your child you love your son that's not the best way to motivate anybody actually but we keep doing it I don't know where we get this vicarious pleasure we hurt people we love and that's really really problematic and then hate and extreme attachment. It could be like your child or daughter, or your son, just too possessive. Love isn't about possession, but we replace love, which is much harder to practice, with an easy, dirty game called possession. You want to take control of somebody's life. Ye karo, ye na karo. Why? Why the hell? You know, why don't you give that freedom? We give water to the plant so that the rose can blossom. We don't ask the plant, ये रोज ऐसी होनी चाहिए. Do we do that? नहीं नहीं फूल आप खिलना चाहते हो ऐसे खिलो. That's what our teachers, our parents, they want us to blossom and smile in a certain way. And that creates what? Resistance. Are we happy? No. Are we going to kiss our parents because they're shouting us all the time and saying, आपको ऐसे होना है? No. We're going to be bitter. We're going to react, but people don't understand it. Okay, so you have inability to handle stress, and that's another thing. These days, especially children, everybody is one child of their parents. Unlike in our generation, where कोई चीज का नहीं होना was very normal. You had to deal with absence of so many things. Now, if you're not having something, it's very abnormal. Parents are under heavy pressure. They keep advising. पता है मैं बस में जाता था, साइकिल में जाता. बेटा बता चलो ना छोड़ो वो कहानी. आप साइकिल वाइकिल कितनी तुम सुनाओगे? हमारे जिंदगी में भी पता है नौकरी कितना डिफिकल्ट आप एग्जाम में एक नौकरी में बैठ के मिल गई आजकल का पता है so you know there's this intergenerational stress and sometimes we feel a little emotionally down so we seek attention okay we have attention seeking behavior yeah any questions you can put it in the message box so that we can take them at one go we have another 10 minutes and I think I have about 10-15 minutes I'll wind up so let's look at how Arjuna is expressing they are going एग्जाम हॉल में गया अर्जुन युद्ध करना है बोला बीच में रखो इन दोनों को देखने के बाद उनका हालत क्या हो रहा है इज एक्चुअली स्कैर्ड ही सेइंग धनुष मेरे हाथ से निकल रहे हैं and you know my skin is kind of burning my mind isn't working I don't want to fight right that's what is happening so what are his fears what are the symptoms you see in him of lack of emotional maturity one thing he has a fear of death he's afraid some people are going to die number one and we face that during COVID right acute fear of death then loss of relatives we also face that relatives and friends so he's anticipating that if I fight there's going to be a loss of lives on the other side and they're all relatives so I'm going to hurt somebody I'm going to kill somebody third violation of moral code आपको कुछ करना है फिर आपके मन में आता है लेकिन ये करूं तो ये दुखी हो जाएगा I'm not saying that you become immoral but you need to understand what is dharma what is right conduct what is right action Bhagwan will explain that and sometimes we have absolute loss of motivation because we aren't convincing about the task we have at hand पढ़ाई करके क्या होगा look at the young boys इसको थोड़ा पढ़ लो बेटे बड़ा आदमी बनोगे हाँ मम्मी कितने लोग बड़ा बन गए देखो चाचा के भाई वो तो ढूंढ रहे हैं अब तो 28 हो गया उनको नौकरी नहीं मिली पढ़ के क्या होता है सब तो कांटेक्ट से होता है पता है कनेक्शन से होता है कनेक्शन हमारा तो है नहीं हमारे घर पे पैसे तो आपके पास है नहीं बड़े बड़े बात करते हो आई वांट टू डू अ स्टार्टअप यू हैव सम कैपिटल विद यू सो यू नो हैव लैक ऑफ मोटिवेशन क्यों पढ़ो पढ़ो तो क्यों those kind of things we face so Arjuna is also having it he's saying okay I win the war for whom पता नहीं मेरे साइड से कितने बेटे मर जाएंगे some of my nephews and sons are going to die on the other side all these brothers and all I'm going to make them widows and the responsibility is going to come back to me right Arjuna's children who they are going to look up to for help me I'm going to kill them celebrate it against whom they'll all be dead in the long run So he has all these fears. So what does affect him most? Doubt regarding goal of life. By the way, Kurukshetra, this whole Mahabharata, Yuddha Chetra, if you look at the whole dialogue, a lot of people are trying to present Bhagavad Gita as literature which is promoting conflict and war. Nothing is farther from truth. There are a few scholars in good places like Cambridge and other places, they have tried to do that interpretation. Look at it. If somebody wants to promote you to go and kill somebody, will he talk about what is Atma? Will he talk about what is Nitya and what is Anitya? Will he talk about what are the three gunas? Will he talk about what is the last chapter? Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. Why should he talk about all this philosophical nonsense? If he wants you to fight, he'll say, Chalo ise maro. आपके मन में जहर भर देगा वो. So Bhagavad Gita is not about a war. War is a symbol for our lives. How to go through this war is all about how to lead our lives, how we need to live our life. That's about it. And then how Bhagavan answers it. Okay, your son, your brother, anybody is depressed. You want to sort of bring in emotional maturity in him. How do you start? बेटा स्कूल नहीं जाना चाहता है, मम्मी कहती है बेटे स्कूल नहीं जाओगे, स्कूल का क्लास में उसका टेस्ट है, तैयारी नहीं की है. अब तैयारी नहीं हुई तो बेटा इज ट्राइंग टू बी वेरी स्मार्ट विद द मदर सेज मम्मी पता है आप कह रही थी ना कि मौसी आज घर पे आएगी, मुझे बहुत प्यार करती है और मैं चला जाऊं तो उनको खराब नहीं लगेगा और तुम इतना खाना वाना बनाती हो, आई शुड गिव यू सम सपोर्ट टुडे, डोंट वांट टू बी हियर. मॉम सेज नो आई कैन मैनेज, यू गो. दिस इज नो मम्मा, इट्स नॉट फेयर, you have been so kind to me, I want to stay home. He gives all philosophical reasons why he shouldn't go to school. Same way Arjuna also gives a lot of philosophical reasons. I'm ready to go to Naraka, who cares about this Rajya Sukha, even Swarga Sukha is not relevant. I don't want to kill, I'm a dharmika person, I'm a jnani person. Like that little boy who's scared of the examination, class test. What does mother do? Mother laughs. अच्छा ऐसी बात है, तुम कितने समझने वाले हो गए हो, यू आर टॉकिंग लाइक ए ग्रोन अप बॉय. लेकिन बता एग्जाम के लिए तैयारी तो हो गई थी ना तुम्हारी. द मदर स्माइल्स. बेटा knows, mother knows that son was bluffing and the mother is correctly sending him back to school. मैं संभाल लूंगी, तुम जाओ स्कूल. बट आई विल फेल. मदर सेज डोंट वरी. फेल पास क्या होता है ना, लेकिन आई विल बी एम्बैरेस्ड. इट्स नन ऑफ योर बिजनेस. गो, यू आर अ स्टूडेंट, फेस इट. भगवान इज टेलिंग द सेम थिंग टू अस. You have karma adhikara. Let's look at it, whatever little is possible. So, to start with, it removes the fear of death, and which is very relevant to all of us. भगवान कहते हैं मारोगे किसको पहले बता दो, शरीर को या आत्मा को. आत्मा मरता नहीं, शरीर कभी भी जी के नहीं रह सकता. मारो ना मारो, this body is going to go. You remember, those of you, I saw there were some people from the English literature. There is this beautiful play by Seneca, Phaedra. One of the lines he says, "O beauty but a dubious moon, lent for a while and all too soon passing away." Like I think the beautiful lawns is referring to the green grass must get scorched under the burning sun. The head must forget the glory of its hair. Our head, it becomes bald after a while, isn't it? You look very attractive when you're 22, 23. And but to add another 20, 30 years, the head doesn't have enough hair on it. So all beauty, it's a glorious gift, but it's very, very temporary. Much of what we have in life is absolutely not permanent. Not this body, not this mind. Buddhi bhi dhire dhire na, becomes very, very weak in old age. The brightest professor also will not be able to remember everything he has studied. It's not going to affect his wisdom. It's going to affect the level of information he has. He may not be able to remember everything. The memory fades, right? Slowly will become vegetable. So whatever we are proud of, the money, the wealth, the health, the physical abilities, mind, cognitive abilities, all are going to decline. They are here for a while. So you cannot destroy them because अपने आप ही destroy होने वाले. आत्मा को destroy नहीं कर सकते. Then he gives some beautiful example. Like we change clothes, the Atma changes these things, these bodies. You're born as one particular person with a name and a form, then you abandon it to take up another dress, another body. The Atma keeps moving. And then he sort of clarifies this. And if you look at other introductory texts of Vedanta, which generally is studied before we get into the Bhagavad Gita, that we have different seeds. So you have the Annamaya Kosha, the physical seed, the physical body. And then you have the Annamaya Kosha, then Pranamaya Kosha, the dynamic self. We're moving, the motor activities, everything that happens. And then you have the Manomaya Kosha, where you have the issue of emotional maturity. You have above that, you graduate, you have the Vijnanamaya Kosha, your cognitive, your analytical power. You differentiate the right from wrong. And then you have the Anandamaya Kosha, the Karana Sarira. And the Shastra says, the Atma is Pancha Koshatita. You are not your mind, you are not your body, you are not your... You know why? The best way to get emotional maturity, the Shastra says, we also go to therapists among Westerners, but the Vedantic, our tradition says, yeah, you can go to a lot of people, tell your stories and pay money and come back. Truth of the matter is, are you ready to do a bit of self-analysis and understand what the truth is about who are you? You are not your thoughts. Why? If you were your thoughts, how you are able to say that I had these thoughts? आप आपके गाड़ी हैं, आप कहते हैं मेरे पास बढ़िया गाड़ी है. How can it be your car? You have a wife, you have a husband. Can you be? You say आप मेरी जान हो. You might say that. How would you understand if somebody's good behavior is not changing? Yeah, I'll look at all the questions in the end. Somebody can take note of them and read them, and together we'll have. As soon as I hit that 4:45, I'll stop. I'm almost there. But the main message of Bhagwan, we couldn't do it, but we'll, if we can meet again, we can finish it. So Bhagavan first of all says, Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha. That is the central statement. Out of nothing, truth can come out. And truth can never be hidden. तो ये जो आत्मा, ये शरीर होता तो मर जाता, लेकिन आत्मा शरीर नहीं है. पांडुकारिका में लिखा गया, आदावंते चयन नास्ति वर्तमाने तथा. जो पहले नहीं था, बाद में भी नहीं रहा है, बीच में जो दिख रहा है सच कैसे हो गया? It's like a dream. The dream wasn't there when you were in waking state. You go to sleep and then you wake up, dream isn't there. But in between, you had this lovely, beautiful garden in which there were a lot of damsels serving you music, and there were drummers who were playing drums, and there were little boys doing a skate or some kind of a play. You're sitting as a king or a queen and enjoying this whole sight. Is that real? No, it's there for a few minutes. When you are in dream. When you wake up, it's not there. So much of what's going on is kind of phenomenal reality. It wasn't there before, it shall not be there after. But what shall be there, you shall be there. Because you are not this body, you are not this, your hands and legs and thoughts and youth and old age and childhood. Because if you were your childhood, you shouldn't be there today. Childhood is gone, you're still there. And you are not your old age, because before the old age appears, you are there. So we got to sort of disconnect. It's called Anvaya Vyatireka Nyaya in Vedanta. We just have to see. I was there even before I had intelligence. So I'm not my intelligence. I was there when I didn't have enough money. I'm not your money. And I'm not my poverty either. And I tell you why that helps in dealing with depression. Please understand, you are not your depression. Somebody might say, you are not intelligent. You are dull. These are wrong ways of expressing. Neither are you your intelligence, nor are you your dullness. Neither are you very handsome, nor are you your ugliness. These are names and forms. These are labels. They're brands we are pasting on ourselves. We are refusing to see our pure nature. We are refusing to go closer to the reality of ourselves. And Bhagavan is telling that you keep confusing yourself because you are not ready yet to sort of enter into that dialogue with yourself where you discard the names and forms and you enter into that pure thing. And how does he explain it? In the chapter 2, first he explains why you need that jnana, right? That Atma thing you need to know is different from body. But to know the Atma, then, son, you'll say that, okay, I don't want to work. I just want to go sit, meditate and read philosophy. Bhagwan says, अभी तो तुम्हारा training नहीं हुआ है. Post work किया आपने? अच्छा, PhD. Earlier there were MPhil, now no, there is no MPhil, but there is course work. आपने course work किया, MA किया? नहीं, BA. But I'm very intelligent. I want to do. What does the university say? I'm sorry, you go and you complete your masters, finish your coursework, then you can write your dissertation. But I'm very creative. Okay, go write a book and publish it. PhD requires a coursework. Bhagavan is saying, you want to catch a flight? Yeah. So you have to do check-in. You have to reach the airport, right? So you don't fly right from your bedroom. You wake up from your bedroom, you go to the bathroom, take a bath, you come, you check. You take a cab, go to the airport, isn't it? Similarly, the Jnana Nishtha, the sannyas or whatever, that has a certain beginning and that requires certain prior preparation. And that is the phase of Karma Yoga. This Karma Yoga purifies the consciousness. The same karma, when it is not yoga, in the sense when we do karma because of raga dvesha, because of a state in which we do not have that emotional maturity, we confuse ourselves as I'm X, I'm Z, I'm Y, I'm a man, I'm a professor, I'm a vice chancellor, I'm a student, I'm dull, I'm intelligent. Fir parishani hai. Why? Because we are not knowing our real nature. Once we know our real nature, it's like you know who you are, then you are playing the role of, let's imagine Radha or Sita or villain or whatever on the stage. People are making fun of you. You're playing the role of a villain. Are you affected? No, that's a role. Similarly, you play your roles, but you never forget what the truth of your inner being is all about. So, to conclude, because there's so many things cannot be completed in one talk, where if we get an opportunity, we can take it forward to sort of wind it up. So Bhagavan will tell us about what is that sthita prajna, that state of emotional maturity in chapter 2 itself. So Arjuna is asking, tell me then how to reach that state of emotional maturity. Bhagavan explains to him that the person who has sort of cultivated the skills of doing his karma without obsession with the results, without kartritva, bhaktritva, abhimana, I'm the doer. Do you know how I wrote that paper? Yeah, they were jacked. All the professors and all. Sometimes I ask questions, professor cannot answer. Many of the students have this sense of pride. I mean, we were all asking questions, isn't it, as students? We used to feel very good. I asked very good questions to professor. And they were very impressed. Bahut tez ladka hai ya ladki hai. We were feeling very good. Is it out of ego? Are we our ego? हम अपने ego हैं तो in deep sleep, are we having an ego? We don't have. So how do we wake up? We should die. No, we wake up. Means our true self is not our ego. It's not our desire. It's not our aspirations. It's not our happiness or sadness. Okay, in deep sleep, we don't have any of this. We still exist. That is the proof enough. It's called, that particular avasthatraya viveka, having a proper discrimination about the Jagrat avastha, Swapna avastha, and Sushupti avastha. This avasthatraya viveka tells us the Atma is existing in all three states. So it's pure consciousness. It's not thoughts. Thoughts are a label on that pure consciousness. But the pure consciousness is a reality which is kind of getting modified in an apparent sense and is projecting itself into so many things. Like the same sky, you look at this pen, if I say, there is space in this pen. This is pen space. This is my hand space. This is my beard space. The space is space. These are just names and forms. And there are different arguments how to sort of reach that inner understanding about what the self is. Then Bhagavan sort of emotional maturity can be at different levels. One is manage the affairs of the way you handle depression, the way you handle things. Like the counselors give you some tricks. Bhagavad Gita tells you that you need to establish your understanding on the foundation of truth, on the foundation of the science of how consciousness works, the foundation of what is good action, what is right action, what is wrong action, right? So when you know the science of karma yoga, you know the science of jnana, and what is this vastu, the atma, and so essentially, when you have a larger, comprehensive, holistic framework, then you live your life, perhaps you are much better equipped, you are much better off in dealing with your everyday affairs. So you can still live your life. You don't have to run into any jungle. You can continue to be where you are, but with a renewed inner understanding and a faith in yourself. And that is what this is the chapter 2 that we kind of focus today. But Bhagwan in the next sort of chapter till chapter 6, it deals with different ways you can actually reach that level of enormous amount of self-control and self-understanding, where he says that you can quietly do everything, but as a yoga yukta person. So you are not troubled, you're more efficient, and you are not shouting at others, and you don't peep at home. You don't hide your face anywhere in depression, and you are not seeking approval from anyone. You're seeking your understanding, and that is a long journey. You're starting with pure Iskama Karma Yoga with Ishwara Arapana Buddhi. Bhagwan makes it very clear. Rely on me. Do your work. Don't trouble yourself too much because you do not understand the science of work to have this. But then that will require maybe another couple of uh, conversations. But we'll stop here. I'll take questions from you.
Thank you so much, Swamiji, for this wonderful deliberation. We could know how to be emotionally mature and how to question ourselves. So there is a question for you, Swamiji. How should you make yourself understand if somebody's rude behavior is not changing towards you?
Yeah, so this is an everyday problem, right? So it's about many women who have a difficult relationship with their mother-in-laws, many sons who have a difficult relationship with their fathers, many daughters who have a difficult relation with their own mothers. It could be a student with a teacher. So what is the situation? I'm going to an office and there is somebody after my life, right? Or the teacher is my afterlife and he's trying to snub me and harass me. And he's not changing his behavior. How do I deal with it? And how do I deal with myself? There are different ways in which to deal with it. Number one, you have to go deep down and dissociate yourself from what you are experiencing as sadness or happiness. Not very easy, but please look at it. What Bhagavan says is that this whole vyavahar, everything is trigunatmika. You are not necessarily all the time responsible for the behavior of another person. He is maybe a very, very rajasic person. And उसका अपना karmic baggage है. He is coming with a baggage of his or her own, whosoever you are talking about. अब अपना garbage वो आपके ऊपर बार बार डालता है. There are few things some practical advice I'm giving. If he's a classmate or a friend or a relative within the family, outside the family, you must find an opportunity to communicate to him or her that you don't enjoy it. That's number one. So don't write letters or anything because it could be misused. You just have to tell him, yeah, sometimes if it's very bad, you need to record it as well. But write and just put it on record. It could be a case of psychological abuse or harassment, right? He or she may be trying to extract something out of you, maybe deliberately doing it to extract compliance that you agree. So put it on record and say that I'm not enjoying this. I feel very depressed. And if there is any manner in which I'm not performing where you want my thing to improve, I would appreciate formal feedback so that I can work on it. But nevertheless, I feel bad. And it needs to be formally conveyed if situation is very bad. If it's just a friend who's making fun of you or something, it's just first instance, you could just, even if it's a reasonably respectable person, you could say, sir, or my friend XYG, I actually didn't like it. Don't say this before others because that is going to hurt his reputation. If he's a colleague, when no one is around, he say, I need to talk to you. So he's prepared for it. However powerful he may be, you must smile and say, I just need to talk to you sometime. When he says when, you need to just convey your feelings peacefully. Remember, spirituality is not denying yourself your own self-dignity and respect. All spirituality is premised on self-respect. So you need to convey it, number one. Number two, once he gives you feedback that there is some area where you need to improve, some deficit, you should work on it. क्योंकि एक बार इन्होंने feedback दिया, आपने काम नहीं किया, he might actually be worse with you. If it's a family member or outside, because he gives a certain feedback and you are not working on it. It's quite possible that he'll divert the issue, try to blame you, he can play any game. But you need to understand where to stop also. Just convey it, withdraw, and try to behave normally. Watch it over a period of time, if it's changing or not. But remember, nothing of these, whether somebody is rude or sad or harassing or anything, nothing should stop you from spiritually growing and pursuing your, fulfillment of your own dreams and realizing your own potential. And you can, and at the same time, it's very important that you don't do what is called bitching about that, because then that will reduce the impact of what you are doing. Because then you will be accused of a gossipers, things like that. Be very serious, take it seriously, because others will not take you seriously. So if actually somebody is being rude, first you have to verify the facts, you have to ascertain yourself. If there is a respectable, trustworthy guide or professor or anyone, you can share this with him or her, take advice. But if that professor has a bad relationship with this guy, he might actually misuse your feedback to settle his scores with the other. So this is a difficult situation and you have to be very, very careful. But spiritually speaking, you have to move truthfully, but remember, in a way where you are solving the problem and you are not harming yourself or anyone else. Next question, please.
Swamiji, we have another question. What is salvation? Is it free from sorrow or pain? Is it called salvation?
Yeah, so this is a big, beautiful philosophical question. So the Nyayayikas, or the Vaiseshika Darsanikas in India said, what is moksha? The Sangya they say is Atyantika Dukha Nibriti. That is Sukha. That is moksha. And that has been refused by the Vedantists and others. Atyantika Dukha Nibriti, somebody might say, you can get it if you put a person under coma, right? A brain dead person, is he having any pain? Is he having moksha? No. Moksha is a state of ananda. So is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, is Satchidananda Prapti. And therefore, is Kaivalya Prapti, where there is not, it's not only absence of sadness, but it's actually experience of that ultimate bliss. And that understanding of bliss is established in, is premised on an understanding of the regions of our sorrow. ये दुख जो है ना सच है ही नहीं, दिख रहे हैं. The best example is, just imagine that you are scared of something, right? But actually that thing doesn't exist. It's like there's a small country dog, it suddenly enters your house and you're in a tribal area and you confuse that for a wolf or even for a leopard or something in darkness and you're scared. But what is the exact removal? So if you can actually see what it is, then you're much better. So for us, in our tradition, bhakti is also for that jnana, that atmik jnana, knowledge. Nitya jnanam na moksha. Bina jnana ka koi moksha nahi ho sakta. It's very, very important. Please keep that in your mind. We have to have self-understanding. Blind belief, no. Beginning, yes. You need to have some belief and faith. But ultimately, you need to have that understanding, unravel. So our tradition is not anti-philosophy. It's not anti-intellectualism. It's not anti-rationalism. It's supra-rationalism. Supra-rationalism. You go beyond what is rational because you grow and reach a point of intuition. That third eye, as they call it, antardrishti. You have that Shakshi Chaitanya. So then things become very easy, even without analyzing, right? Even with that, analyzing also, you spread love. Why? You're all the time that sarvatma bhava. So love is not kissing and hugging. That is at the lower level. Hug is at that level where all Veda vrittis, that I am different from this, I am man, I am rich, I am poor, goes everything. And that sadhu is sheer presence. He's standing. You go stand next to him. You feel love. You feel as if he has given you an embrace. Why? And I tell you, you practice it yourself. your mom is getting angry with you unnecessarily. You do one thing. When she gets angry, lovingly, smilingly, go and hug her. Try this. It works. When you are removing all the clutter from your mind, the power of your positive consciousness permeates. It's also infectious, let me tell you. Hatred is infectious, but what's more infectious is actually love. So when you practice this, you become quiet. Another person is very upset. You don't know how to handle it, leave that place. Don't hurt yourself. In that situation, you can just withdraw yourself. You need to protect yourself. And Bhagwan says in Bhagavad Gita, आप कैसे व्यवहार करो जैसे कछुआ अपना अपने हाथ पैर सब अंदर खींच लेता है ऐसे आप सब सेंस organs, all your indriyas, withdraw them. Kurmanga niva bharata. That kurma, it removes and withdraws your senses. Similarly, you hide your senses. Get into a cell. It's important. Not out of depression, huh? Because of an intelligent way of dealing with life. But there are ways to deal with. Next question, please.
Yes, we have another question. Like people say, have faith in God. Does that really work?
Depends on how deeply you're having faith in God. By the way, you need to first understand what is God. For Vedanta, God is not a guy with a handsome face, right? So that is there in the Semitic faiths like Christianity and Islam and other faiths. God is kind of a person. In Vedanta, in the Upanishads, I'll tell you very briefly in 3 sentences what is God for us. Bhagwan kaun hai? You know, they say, Mayam tu prakriti vidyat mayinam tu maheshwara. That is the sentence in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. जो माया है पुरुष प्रकृति प्रकृति के माध्यम से पुरुष अपने को प्रकाशित करते हैं ये पूरा सृष्टि प्रक्रिया सिर्फ एक भासमान सत्य है ये परिप्रकाश भगवान संकल्प से करते हैं मिट्टी से नहीं बनाते बिकॉज भगवान दैट सत्यम ज्ञानम अनंतम ब्रह्म नेह नानास्ति किंचन सिर्फ एक ही है अद्वितीय ब्रह्म है फिर मिट्टी ये संसार कहाँ से आएगा और ये संसार भगवान से बाहर नहीं है आपसे भगवान से आप बाहर नहीं है the moment you say you are different from God do you know what is the Upanishadic question they will say अच्छा ठीक है भगवान से आप अलग हैं भगवान आपसे अलग हैं तो भगवान तो छोटे हो गए ना सर्व विद्यमान सर्वज्ञ सर्वशक्तिमान ये आपने संज्ञा निरूपण किया है ओमनिशिएंट ओमनीप्रेजेंट ओमनीपोटेंट अब जब बोले भगवान आपसे अलग हैं तो आपको थोड़ा जगह मिल गई ना भगवान आप भगवान से अलग हो गए अब अलग हो गए तो भगवान सीमित हो गए भगवान इज नॉट ऑल कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव बिकॉज यू आर आउटसाइड ऑफ हिम सो रिमेंबर दिस यू आर एक्चुअली नॉट डिफरेंट फ्रॉम गॉड सो आर यू गॉड अब तो कुछ जानते नहीं भगवान सब जानते हैं हम किंचित ज्ञ है किंचित शक्तिमान है वो सर्वशक्तिमान है सर्व विद्यमान है हम तो अल्पस्थ हैं कहीं पे खड़े हैं तो हम कैसे भगवान हो सकते हैं लेकिन उपनिषद कहता है तत्त्वमसि तुम वही हो कैसे कहता है ये चीज आप समझिए जब अपना अहंकार को हम खत्म करते हैं ध्यान स्थिति में और सर्वोच्च चैतन्य का वो पराकाष्ठा वो स्थिति पर पहुंच जाते हैं वहां पे कोई नहीं रहता है शुद्ध चैतन्य मात्र रह जाता है और वो शुद्ध चैतन्य मात्र जो जिसको आप कहते हैं ईश्वर या ब्रह्मन वो चैतन्य स्वरूप से अलग नहीं प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड देयर आर 2 ways some of you are literature students in our parampara we have something called lakshyartha or vachyartha so I say this is a pen okay this pen is the what I say this is the sabda okay vachaka this being referred to this is called vachya what you mention in the meaning when you say this is the referent right and you're using this is a word there's a certain reference you're using this is actually being referred to but this is being referred to in a direct way it's called vachya vachaka sambandha sometimes vachyartha is this pen so when you say of the brahman the vachyartha is ishvara what is lakshyartha tat शब्द का वो आप वो हो वो tat क्या है tat है वाच्यार्थ में ईश्वर लक्ष्यार्थ the intended meaning is actually brahman which is without name and form so ईश्वर ब्रह्म में फर्क लिया है और क्या है फर्क when brahman becomes maya sanyukta when it wears the hat of magic जादूगर स्टेज पे आ जाता है एक डंडा लेके घुमा लेता है उसके बाद सब दिखाने लगता है ठाकुर रामकृष्ण परमहंस से जादूगर ही सच है जादू झूठ है हम जो दिख रहे हैं सब झूठ है क्यों दिखता है झूठ नहीं कैसे सच हो सकता है प्रमाण कैसे दिखता है, क्यों सच नहीं हो सकता है? इमीडिएटली वेदांत से आप सपने भी तो दिखते हो, उसमें क्या सच है क्या झूठ है आपने देखा, बस दैट्स ऑल। बुद्धि से द सेम थिंग, जो दिखता है वो सच नहीं है। दृश्यत्वाद, संसार मिथ्या, क्यों? दृश्यत्वाद, दिखता है, सच कैसे हो सकता है? तो सच कौन है? वेदांत कहता है दृष्टा सच है, जो देखता है वो सच है। जो दृक् चैतन्य, दैट विटनेस सेल्फ, दैट अलोन इज ट्रू, एंड दैट विटनेस सेल्फ कैन नॉट बी मेनी। व्हाई? वेदांत सेज नेह नानास्ति किंचन, यहाँ पे अलग नहीं, एक ही है। जिस स्तर पर हम उससे विच्युत होते हैं, एक से दूसरे का बात होता है, एक से दूसरे का संपर्क होता है। जब वहां पहुंच जाएंगे, वहां पे ना माँ ना बापा, सब क्या मर जाएंगे? नो नो नो, वी ऑल आर एक्चुअली वन। व्यवहार काल में शिक्षक है, शिक्षार्थी है, बाप माँ भाई बहन दुश्मन मित्र, सब शब्द प्रयोग हो जाते हैं। परमार्थिक स्तर पर ये सब जितने शब्दों का प्रयोग होता है वो सिर्फ अलिख है, दिखते हैं। व्यवहार काल में ठीक है, परमार्थतः ना सच, इट्स नॉट ट्रू। सो मच ऑफ आवर इग्नोरेंस, much of our pain and anxiety, it's all about getting stuck in the details. But the details are true to an extent, yes, व्यवहारिक काल में हर दिन जीना है, they are all true. But let's not get obsessed with these details, which are temporary and they're passing in nature. That's all I will say. Any other question, please? Next one.
There is no more questions, Swamiji. Thank you so much for this spiritually loaded, insightful talk. We'll definitely try to be emotionally mature and we'll try to apply this in our lives. Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, may I request the president of today's meeting, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Sanjay.
Can we just request that before we end, because can we do the Shanti Mantra praying for happiness of all, and then we can wind it up?
Sir, our Vice Chancellor's presidential address is left. After that, we can have.
Sure, sure, sure.
May I invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Sanjay Kumar Satpathy sir to deliver his presidential address. Sir.
Okay, welcome all of you. We listened a very powerful talk. After this, talking long is not required actually. Only I can hint on the instability comes within us for buddhi nasa. Or we are on the spiraling effect of happiness, which comes in contact with our sense organs. Initially, it is nectarine, but ultimately we get disturbed by that. So, in the second chapter, as it is told, ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषु उपजायते संगत संजायते कामः कामत् क्रोधो विजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् हृदि विभ्रमः हृदि भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. We will not go into that spiral where that will lead to buddhinasa. Then automatically, when the wisdom will be derailed, we will have instability and we will call on the different sorrows and the companions of sorrow. Srimad Bhagavad Gita will definitely give us an answer to be cool and to get the eternal happiness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. May I now request Ms. Khushbu Agarwal to propose a formal vote of thanks. After that, we can have our Santi Patha by our Swamiji.
Thank you so much, Madam. Swamiji Pranam. My namaskar to all of you. It's a proud privilege for me to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of Kalahandi University today on the occasion of 54th episode of Uttishtata, which has delivered on emotional stability and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. First of all, my heartfelt thanks goes to our very own Honorable Vice Chancellor of Kalahandi University, Professor Sanjay Kumar Satpathy sir, for always being like the pillar for all of us. Sir, under your able guidance, we are doing today the 54th episode of this motivational talk. Each time we are doing this with a different flavor and newness, with much of the direct application in our life, all because of you, sir. So thank you so much, sir, for always for your word of encouragement and motivation to all of us. I extend my gratitude, deep sense of humbleness and thankfulness to our today's speaker, Swamy Shama Chaitanya ji. Guruji, आपको सत सत नमन. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to have you with us today. In this era, in this time, being emotionally stable is really a big challenge for all of us. Whether one is rich or poor, it does not matter. Emotional instability, once in a while, always comes to us. So it's very important to being very good mentally, and mental health always plays an important role, not only in our life, but also to an institution. So thank you so much, Guruji, for being with us, enlightening us, and accepting our invitation. It's really, we are lucky to have you with us. I extend my thankfulness to our esteemed registrar, Sri Pitambar Bhoi sir, and Controller of Finance, Sri Suresh Pidisika sir, for their presence and word of encouragement. Thank you so much, sir. I welcome Dr. Pavitra Kumar Bagh, Assistant Professor in Political Science, and take this opportunity to place humble vote of thanks for introducing Swamiji to the audience. Thank you so much, sir. Words would be insufficient to thank the convener of today's webinar, Major Jaydev Sahu sir, Chairman PG Council of our university. Sir, you are the person who gives a lot of effort always to make the session smooth, interesting and timely. Thank you so much, sir, for always being there. I am grateful and extend my vote of thanks to Dr. Radharani Nayak Madam for her wonderful moderation, words and interaction. Thank you so much, ma'am. I am also thankful to Miss Lipsa for her smooth start of the session with a very beautiful words and beautiful song. Thank you so much, Lipsa, for always being with us. My special thanks goes to our special audiences who always join with us. Shri Nupraj Sahu sir, esteemed registrar of Sambalpur University, Ganesh sir, Sujata madam, Govinda sir. So thank you so much for, I also thank to all the participants who have joined and actively taken part in the question answer session. We have also been fortunate enough to have with us a wonderful team of Uttishtata and also wonderful faculty members of our university. So my heartfelt thanks goes to them. I also place on record my deep sense of gratitude and thankfulness to all the dignitaries of different university, colleges, and all the audiences who have taken and given their time with us to join this webinar. So a big thank you to all of you. Last but not the least, my thanks goes to our dear students who always are actively participating in the motivational series, and my thanks also goes to our technical team and one and all who are directly or indirectly involved in the session for making this session a successful one. So thank you all. Over to you, Radharani madam.
A big thanks to you also, ma'am. Now may I request our Swamiji to chant the Santi Patha Mantra.
Yeah, so you can join me. Slowly I'll do it and you can join. Sharveshang Swastirvhavatu.
Sarvesham bhavatu.
Sharveshang Shantirvhavatu.
Sarvesham
Sarveshang Punam Bhavatu.
Sarvesham bhavatu.
Sarveshang Mangalam Bhavatu.
Sarvesham mangalam bhavatu.
Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Sarve Shantu Nirayana.
सर्वे सन्तु
Sarve Bhadrani Pashantu.
Bhadrani pashyantu.
Makaste Dokam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So Namah Hari.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. It was very good, and thank you for having me. Have a good evening. God bless you all. Thank you.
So much, Swamiji.
Namaste. Namaste.
Thanks to all of you. We can end up here for today.
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste to everyone.